All right, Texas fans, back at you with preview for Texas versus Michigan this weekend. We're coming at you live from various locations in the great state of Texas. It's September 4th, 8:20 p.m. Um, no rain, visibility virtually unlimited. Let's get into it. Um, First time Texas and Michigan are meeting since 2004, which was the first of two Rose Bowls in a row for our Texas Longhorns. Vince Young's um, coming out party of sorts. Um, what a great game he had the last time these two teams met. Um, Almost 400 yards total offense for Vince. Four touchdowns on the ground, one throwing. Um, Went up against Chad Henne, career NFL backup.
Ah, yes.
Braylon Edwards tore us apart. Steve Breston had a big play. I remember those guys. Seemed like we couldn't stop them back then. I don't think it's going to be the same situation this week. I don't even know a Michigan wide receiver's name on the team this year. I know they had some drafted, but you know, nobody stood out against Fresno State. So going into this game, obviously we have the history. It's a good history for Longhorn fans, but going into this game, kind of look to see from you guys some initial thoughts. We got the spread, of course, I think is gone in Texas way. It looks like it started at 4.5. Now it's at 7.5. I was listening to Joel Klatt on TV earlier today, and he's a heavy Texas favorite for this game as well. Talked about the recruiting, how you know Sark is not trying to be Nick Saban, but he's done a lot of the same recruiting tactics that Saban has done with getting the right kind of players. We have size and speed, and we saw that week one. A little bit more to be desired for Michigan fans week one. So, initial thoughts. We'll start with you, Brett. Uh, Coming into this game, what do you think?
I feel really good coming into this game. A lot of excitement around this college game day and big noon kickoff going to be there. Uh, it feels like Texas is a destination team again, where not only are our opponents circling us on the schedule, but we've got the big networks that are fighting over our rights, trying to bring as much fanfare and notoriety to each one of our games. So everybody's getting on board, whether you love us or hate us. This game to me feels a lot like the Alabama game last year. Traveling to another, big time programs home where they don't want to get beat, where they haven't been beaten. I think Michigan has a home win streak of over 2 seasons now, something like that. So it's pretty significant. We're going to go to the big house for the first time ever. Biggest state, still the biggest stadium in college football. And you got to take care of business there. So Sark's got these guys prepared just like he did for the Tuscaloosa trip last year. I'm looking forward to it. I think there's going to be some fireworks. I don't think the 42.5 over under is going to stick. I think it's going to come down to a little bit of a higher scoring game, maybe even a barn burner towards the end. I've got the good guys scoring some points though.
Yeah, it's a 23 game home win streak, by the way.
Wow.
So, Justin, prediction or initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, kind of reiterating what Brett said, it is a pretty big game, obviously. They're the defending champs going into their house, going into a big time opponent in back-to-back seasons like that, I think says a lot about the scheduling that Texas does. I know this game specifically got flipped once Texas was going to the SEC to make up for some TV money, et cetera. But to be able to schedule like that is fun for the fans. It's really good litmus test for the team. Um, Last week I think both teams really didn't try to do too much to show each other, but I am excited about what this game holds and kind of what we've got on store for us. I mean, it'll be a kegs and eggs kind of party. Um, I have heard a lot about how the fan base is in Michigan. While it is a lot of people, it's very spread out. And if we can shut them down early, I think they actually might get a little quiet. And apparently, sometimes if you can kind of get on them early and not really let them get too much momentum, they'll sit on their hands. A lot like how Texas fans used to be years ago, right? Where we just had a bunch of
Yeah.
doctors and lawyers out there just, I think we could possibly do that to them. and just see Ant Hill just running around and saying, this is our stadium. Just sit down, watch us play. So we'll see if we can make something like that happen.
Yeah. I'm definitely more confident going into this game than I was going into week one after having seen both teams play. Um, and I think our Texas players, the team, I think will have a lot of confidence. I think Michigan might be lacking some confidence, but they're still defending champs. They haven't lost a game, just a kind of a poor showing week one. Maybe
Yeah.
they were looking ahead to week two. They knew Fresno State was a win. But
Hey.
Fresno State should be, they're in the Mountain West, just like Colorado State. I see those teams being in the same tier. And so we'll get a chance to show on Saturday whether Michigan and Texas are in the same tier.
Yeah. And
So,
kind of on top of that, sorry, real quick, I did want to say
yeah,
I think I'm more confident going into this game this year than I was going into Bama last year. I
yeah,
think, I mean, Brett, we talked a lot about the Bama game last year as well, and I wasn't sure if we were going to win. I thought, hey, man, if we can keep it within a touchdown, I'd be happy. And it's certainly feeling a little different this year. I think that momentum and that confidence has certainly grown with me personally.
The scenario was flipped compared to last year. Last year, the Alabama game was Texas's coming out party, right, under Sarkisian. It was the first notable win that Texas has had since we beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl a few years before that. But I mean, yeah, that was such a big one. And Texas was underdogs going into that, significant underdogs. I think 5.5, 6.5 point dogs on the road for that game
Yep.
going into it. So Alabama certainly had way more to lose than Texas did going into last year's game. This year, Texas has way more to lose against Michigan. Texas cannot lose this game to Michigan. They're the favorite. You got to go in there and you got to take care of business. Everyone expects it. You don't. You're missing it.
yeah. We snapped Alabama's 21 game home win streak. So time to snap Michigan's 23 game home win streak. Okay, guys, players to watch this week. Any changes from last week? Brett, we'll start with you again.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, last week. So let's just think about offense. There wasn't really much. I mean, you could kind of circle a few names, maybe Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, both had touchdown passes. Silas Bolton had a touchdown. Running backs both looked fine, but you didn't really get a feel for like who's really going to take this game over. Last year against Alabama, I mean, keep going back to the Alabama game because of the similarities. But that's when we found out who Adonai Mitchell was, right? That was Quinn's go-to receiver in clutch time. He scored that final touchdown to kind of stick that final dagger in Nick Saban's heart. So who is that receiver going to be this year? Who's Quinn's go-to? Because I guarantee you we're going to need him at some point in this game. Is it going to be Isaiah Bond as expected? Is it going to be Matthew Golden? Is it going to be Jonte Cook or one of the other wide receivers? Is it going to be a running back? I don't know. But I think that finding that go-to receiver, whoever it ends up being, is the person that I'm going to be watching for. And on the flip side of the ball, as far as Michigan goes, yeah, I don't know any of their receivers, but they do have one tight end that's very good. His name's
Yeah.
Colston Loveland. Tough matchup like any good tight end is. We've been touting our passing defense for getting better and better and better, and bringing in transfers and developing younger players to stand up the test. Let's see how our safeties and our outside linebackers are going to match up against a big, strong tight end that can run routes and catch passes.
Yeah, no, I mean, Loveland is no joke. He is probably the top tight end in the country, probably number one tight end drafted next year. He's really good. Big, strong, powerful, great receiver. It'll be interesting how our linebackers line up against him. And he might be the only guy that can significantly move the ball in the pass game. They don't really have, in my opinion, great receivers that are going to outdo any of our DBs. I'm looking forward to see as quiet as Silas Bolden was last week, but for as much as we heard about him in the preseason, I'd be curious if they held him back and just kind of let him kind of play games last week, and if he's that wide receiver that just kind of takes off. But if it's anything like last week, they've got a ton of options. So I think watching all the speed and skill position we've got between the receivers and the running backs, it's going to be really fun. Um, Anthony Hill, I think, is a linebacker to watch for sure. He's going to be moved all over the place. And with Binda and Leon Lafau, I think those three against that run game are going to be huge because I don't know if our defensive tackles are as good as they were last year, which is not, obviously, no shame on that. Those guys were two, first round
Definitely
picks,
not.
almost first
Definitely
round
not.
picks. So top 50 picks. So it'll be real interesting to see how our linebackers can hold up against it. An interesting stat I think I heard today was David Binda had an average depth of tackle rate, which means like how far, or average depth of tackle of like how far they get past the line of scrimmage or past him. It was 0.8 yards. So basically, he was stopping them every single
Wow.
time. So really interested to see if we can do that against those running backs in that run game.
Yeah, good stuff. I just first website I looked at, Loveland is projected #1 tight end in next year's draft. So
Yeah.
that'll be a good test there. I think that's outside of Edwards, that's their next best offensive player. So probably be a key guy to watch on third down when we're on defense. But all right, what are you guys most confident about going into this game? Um, I'll start. I think we can score. I think we're going to be able to score on anybody this year. I think Sark has the scheme, the talent, obviously the depth at wide receiver. He knows how to get players open. So even if, things don't work out early, I trust what Sark can do to game plan, or change a script as needed. But so Justin, we'll start with you on this one. What are you most confident about in this game?
Yeah, honestly, kind of on top of that, like I think that Quinn will be smart. Right? He made a bad turnover last game, right? He's not turnover prone. So I think Quinn, I'm very confident in what he can do and the options he's going to have, the decision making he makes. But I'll go the other way. And I think linebacker play, again, with Ant Hill, Benda, LaFau, I think those three guys, that's going to be what I think our game plan on defense is going to really depend on. We got to be able to stop their run game. We didn't look fantastic against Colorado State. I trust the passing game. I really want to see those linebackers stop the running game. Personally, I don't think Dylan Edwards is what he used to be. He was phenomenal 2 years ago. Last year, he was very hit or miss. If you go and watch some of his highlight plays, he ran into the back of the offensive line and then just happened to squeak out. I mean, go watch a national championship
You
game.
mean Donovan Edwards?
I
Yeah.
said Dylan Edwards, didn't
Yeah,
I?
yeah.
Yeah, Donovan Edwards. Thank you. Um, he is fast, but
Yeah.
he has no vision. So if we can bottle him up in the backfield, I think we got him. Mullings is the guy who's actually more of the like consistent runner. Doesn't have as flashy of a name, as flashy a play, but I think he averaged like 6 or 7 yards per rush last week against Fresno, which was significantly better than what Edwards did.
Yeah.
So if linebackers can bottle them up, I think that's going to be huge. Again, obviously we're going to have Orgy to deal with. I think that they didn't play him as much. The secondary kind of wildcat quarterback has a hell of an arm, not very accurate, but he can run and he can run and he can run people over. So we're gonna have to watch probably some type of option run game with him. So our linebackers got to be disciplined and just do their job. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm sorry, that's what I'm confident that they can do that. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that last year Donovan Edwards was a change of pace back. Blake Corum smash it till his forehead bleeds, and
Broke his
then
nose multiple
yeah,
games.
yeah, and then Edwards, he did have in a couple of those games he hit the hole and he's gone. So if he does find a hole, he can still do that, I think. But I don't think he's quite the ground and pound guy that Corum was last year. He's, I think, more of a finesse, elusive type back. So let's get into what we're most worried about coming off of what we're most confident about. Justin, let's start with you again. What are you most worried about in this game?
Do we want to check with Brett on his confidence?
Oh, yeah, we'll get to you, Brett. Justin, what are you most worried about? And then Brett, you go confidence and
And worries.
worry.
Cool. Um, you know, I am slightly worried about, I know I said I'm confident in Quinn being able to manage his throws and make good decisions. But if they show a lot of simulated pressures and exotic blitzes, those are the plays that I think are going to possibly push that the other way. So I'm worried about simulated pressures and some exotic blitzes. I cannot remember the Michigan defensive coordinator name, but I know he's fantastic. Um, so if he can dial it up, and I'm sure they've looked at the past 2 years of Quinn and they can see that if he has to go past that first or second read, he's not as good. Quinn's good about getting the ball out in like 2 seconds. So I'm a little worried about if they can simulate the pressure and then pull back and come from different directions. I think that's going to mess with Quinn a little bit, so we'll have to scheme around that. Um, I do not like John Martindale. Thank you, thank you. That's the defensive coordinator for Michigan. I don't love the Texas run game matchup here. Maybe outside, maybe the speed can get them. I could see that being nice. But I'm not super confident. I don't think we have a banger to run between the tackles still, but maybe we just didn't show much last week and we can get a little bit more push this week. And then Will Johnson, probably the number one DB in college for Michigan. He's going to match up on somebody, and I think he's pretty much just going to take them out of the game. We'll probably still pass it a couple times to see maybe what we can make happen. We have so many other good options. I think they'll go the other way. So, my opinion, man, if you have 0 targets at Will Johnson, that's fine with me. I'm worried about how good that dude is, and I just say avoid him as
Real,
if we can.
real quick, we don't throw a bubble screen to his side of the field.
Facts.
So
Yeah, for what he just did last week.
yeah,
Yeah,
we can't if
that
we
was
do that.
telegraphed.
Oh, was that the
Yeah,
pick six?
yeah, that
Yeah,
was the pick six that sealed the win for them.
yeah.
So, all right, Brett, what are you most confident about? What are you most worried about?
I'm not as confident as I was about you sticking to the agenda.
Well, got excited. What can I say?
I guess, yeah, Justin, I mean, to piggyback on what you're saying about what I'm most worried about, I mean, all the reports that we've heard out of fall camp with Quinn's development was that he's getting really good at reading defenses and staying in the pocket and going through multiple reads. So hopefully, what you're worried about is really something that he turned into his strength
Mhm.
over the course of the off season, and we see him see his development right before our eyes on Saturday. But as far as what I'm most confident about, I mean, I think our pass defense is going to be perfectly fine against this Michigan offense. I mentioned earlier the tight end for Michigan. I mean, he's a stud, but outside of that, their quarterback, and I'm not even sure they even know who their starter is between those two guys. Seems like we're going to have a pass rush, and this will be a real good test for that because I think Colorado State had 2 total dropbacks that were, of the 5-step nature in the entire game. So we really didn't get to see the pass rush get home at all. We saw a couple pressures. That was pretty much it. Uh, it'll be exciting because Michigan, in order to take the lid off of this defense, they're going to have to drop back a little bit more, and we'll see if that pass rush can get home. Can Trey Moore, can Ethan Burke, Barron Sorrell, can those guys get there, and even with defensive tackles? And then I think I just feel really good about our defensive backs up against those wide receivers. As far as my worry is actually kind of what you are saying is your strength, Justin. Can our defensive linemen and our linebackers make up for what we lost in the draft last year? You know, it's all going to be about run fits. And these defensive linemen, they're good. They're gonna meet their assignment. They're gonna meet the expectation of their assignment. But are they going to drive their offensive linemen, 3 yards back into the backfield like Devondre Sweat did countless times last year? I don't know. I don't know. I think they're gonna fill some gaps, and that's gonna be our linebackers that we're gonna have to rely on to get into the gap and meet that running back head on. And I hope what we saw out of Benda last week, where he came blowing through the hole and took out the running back and Anthony Hill as well. I hope we continue to see that against a much better run offense. So that's the thing so I wouldn't say I'm worried about it, but probably the most pessimistic about it. We also have that new defensive line coach, Kenny Baker. Has he developed that defensive line to be able to take on the run? So we'll learn a lot for sure.
And I'll say kind of piggyback, I didn't mention like the reason I think I'm excited about what the linebackers can do is because I think we can make Michigan one dimensional. I don't fear the pass game. So I think those linebackers are going to be able to just zone in. Yes, Loveland is going to make his plays, but I think we could put a safety or nickel on him or bracket him, something like that, and more or less limit his production. But I feel like we're going to be able to limit, like we can one-on-one on the outside. That's not a big deal. And our linebackers are just going to be able to focus on the run game, which is why my confidence is so high on them. I just think that they're going to be able to fly around and play see ball, hit ball.
Yeah. Here's a question for you guys. Last year, our defensive identity was take away the run, let them try to catch up to us in the second half by throwing the ball, and then everybody could do it. U of H could do it, TCU could do it, Kansas State could do it. Teams that are not known for a passing offense. Do you think that we maintain that identity this year? Do you think it inverts to where we have a better pass defense than rush defense, or do you think it's more well balanced?
Ben, what do you think?
I don't know. It's so hard to play good defense when you're ahead. Do you blitz and then give up the quick pass that they take away for 30, 40 yards?
No.
Or do you sit back, play man with the shell and just keep everything in front of you and then, again, they kind of eat away at these 5, 7 yards and move their way down the field. It's hard to send the house. Um, and sometimes you get beat. But I think the main thing is you do play a little more conservatively when you have the lead, but I don't think you need to change your identity. Um, and perhaps that happened in some of these games where we took our foot off the gas on defense and we just, hey, let them have some yards, and then those turn into big plays. And again, all those little catches, they get them down the field quickly when they're doing that hurry up offense, and defense gets tired. So I think it's just really hard to play against that 2 minute style offense, no matter what team you are. Like if you watch the NFL every week, like as soon as somebody gets in a 2 minute offense, it's like no one can stop them. You think, why don't they just run that the whole game? Um, it's really not sustainable to do that. Texas Tech did it for years, and the most they ever did was tie and got to the Big 12 championship by some bogus tiebreaker, but they never really won anything. I mean, always had good offenses, but their defense suffered because of it. So, um, I think you gotta find a way to maybe simulate the pressure. I think in those scenarios, you don't want to do a zero blitz and leave your guys on an island because one little slip and a slant goes for 70 yards and a touchdown. And then they're in the game that much faster. So I think you got to do some sort of combination, have somebody over the top, and then whether you're going to man up against the guy in the slot, and then play zone elsewhere. You know, take away their best guy is all I got to say, and try to limit the quarterback running for that random 20-yard run. But it's tough. I don't know that. I don't know any defensive coordinator has the best strategy because I think we see defenses every week, maybe except for Georgia, but these 2 minute offenses are pretty tough to stop if you have a decent quarterback on the other side.
So what I think Texas is this year is, yeah, I think it's going to be the inverse. I think that last year stopped the run, good luck on the outside and deep. Our safety play was horrible. This year, we're going to try and say, look, the skill positions in the SEC are good, but I don't know if they're significantly better just in regards to like the schematics and everything quarterback play that we actually saw in the Big 12. Okay, Alabama, hands down, like some of the best. But a lot of these other teams, I guess probably Ole Miss is the other one. A lot of these other teams either don't have the quarterback play to be able to do that constantly, or don't have the receivers to be able to do that to us constantly. So I think they're looking at SEC as like, man, we can now trust our guys on the outside to play the one-on-one, and we can stop that and force them to run to us now and kill that clock. I think that's how I think we're gonna play better pass defense just because of the versatility that we have, the athletes we have on the outside. I mean, the depth and just the communication, it sounds like that they've been developing. So I feel like it's going to be a little bit of the inverse. We're going to really focus on not letting anybody pass on us. and just clog the holes and make them run down the throat. And that's fine because we're going to have hopefully a very exciting and explosive offense. It's like, okay, you want to run down? That's fine. We're going to stop you eventually, kick a field goal, and we're going to go get 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the simulated pressure we've talked about a lot, and I noticed it watching Georgia play. Like they got 5 or 6 guys at the line of scrimmage. You don't know who's coming, and they really only rush 4 guys every time. Um, and and that's a and those 4 guys are usually able to get home. So I think you change what the quarterback's looking at. You make him think he's got that bubble screen open, but then you're in a cover 2, right? And you just go blow up the blocker, or you do what the Michigan corner did last week. So um, good thought there, Brett. All right, back to the agenda since we just went off of it. Um, Bold take for the week. I've got Michigan scoring their only TD on a non-offensive possession. So it's pick six, fumble recovery, kick return, punt return, something like that. I think other than that, we hold them to field goals. They might move the ball a little bit, but I don't think they're going to be able to break our defense. Brett, what do you think? Bold take.
Well, I hope your bold take on the non-offensive touchdown doesn't come to fruition. But mine is Michigan scores 13 points or less. I think we're pretty well rounded. I'm really excited to see the rush defense, and I think that's going to dictate what that scoring line is going to be. So I'm saying that it's going to be good, and they're going to score 13 or less.
I'm thinking I got a couple of them here. I think our defense or special teams makes a big play. Block punt, block kick, maybe a pick six, fumble, sack, strip, whatever, score a touchdown on our defense or special teams. And it'll probably come at a point where maybe Michigan's starting to get back into it, and then we are able to capitalize, and then it's just a waterfall effect, and you just start seeing them start playing head games in themselves. Are like, we're not ready for this type of game. So I think our defensive special teams, man, are so good at just dialing up the right play at the right time and just making those plays happen. I know last year in the OU game, Brett, we were watching that thing, and I said, I think we're going to block this punt, and sure enough, we blocked it in the end zone, scored the touchdown. Right, like there's just the time of a game, especially those big games. They're so damn good about making those play calls. I also think
Well,
that we will
hold
hold.
on, I want to stay on that point for a second.
Yeah, please.
I think it is worthwhile, and I think it's something that's still super underrated by Sark and his staff, is special teams.
Yes.
And if y'all remember last year in the pregame press conference that Mike Gundy had before the Big 12 championship, he said someone asked him something on the lines of, "Hey, what worries you the most about Texas?" And he responded, "Their special teams is really good." And he said it just like that.
Yep.
And the mainstream media that doesn't know like Texas football or Sark style, like thought he was just kind of saying like basically none of the team is very good.
Right.
It's like special teams kind of like a joke, but he was being very serious when he said that.
Yeah.
And so I think Sarkisian definitely prides himself. Is it Jeff Banks that's our special teams coordinator?
Yep.
Jeff Banks seems to be a freaking wizard.
He's awesome.
I mean, I could very easily see us having some sort of special teams significant impact. I won't say necessarily a score, but a significant impact in that game.
I think so as well. And I guess we should have probably mentioned in our players to watch and things to be worried about our freshman punter who punted one time against Colorado State. So that's going to be fun.
That's true.
My other bold take will be I think Donovan Edwards rushes for 40 yards or less. Maybe that's not as big of a bold take because I don't even know if he hit that last week. But for somebody who's a home run hitter, and for as leaky as our rush defense looked last week, man, I think we can hold him under 40, and I'll go under 30 if you want me to make it more bold. But I think that he is not as good at running the ball through the holes as he is made up to be.
11 for 27 last week.
Yep.
Did he have any catches?
2 for 0.
So they don't throw the ball into
Yeah, I mean, last week it was Colson Loveland, 8. catches, 87 yards.
Yeah.
Next closest targets was or next closest receptions was three. I don't have targets.
No.
But they threw the ball 27 times, ran it 34. So even in a game where they were, letting the team hang in there, I think they're running the ball a lot more than throwing it. I think we're a little more balanced, but I think they might have try to take the air out of the ball, keep Coin on the sidelines. I think third downs are going to be huge. Get them off the field.
Yep.
Um,
Predictions?
yep. Predictions. I got 31-16, and I know Brett put his in first. So I think you have the same score, but yeah, I think we hold Michigan one touchdown, couple field goals. Um, we might start slow, but I don't think we have trouble putting up 31.
Yeah, I think it's close at half. For whatever reason, we've switched our identity in the past 2 or 3 years. We score way more in the second half of big games, it seems like. So I'm saying that's going to be close at half, maybe 10-10, feels like about right. And then we're going to maybe have a big special teams play, score a couple of back-to-back touchdowns, and take over 31-16.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when that Steph Curry, Klay Thompson Warriors like run happens because like we may not start hot right away, but man, when we get going and we score like three touchdowns in a row or 3 out of 4 possessions, we get touchdowns. That's the type of waterfall I'm talking about where we can have something like that happen.
Yeah.
Um, I think we win something closer to 30-10. I think 30 is about, I think we're all in the same range. 30 is about as max as what we're going to score just because of how much Michigan is going to just take the air out of the ball. I mean, they run about 60 plays a game. We just need to be super efficient, make it happen. I think the one touchdown we let up is probably some kind of blown coverage on Loveland or something like that. I don't think it, I mean, it could be a, Donovan Edwards, a big run that we miss a tackle or whatever. But I think once that one big play happens, defense will tighten up and we'll be good to go. And I could see us just constantly pushing the ball down and scoring and pinning them way back and playing field position, making that special teams a big difference in the game.
Yeah. Looking back at the box score from last weekend, Fresno State, um, I guess that they ran the ball for a little over 30 yards, but then with sacks, they had minus 30 yards. So it was like 9 yards total rushing for Fresno State. It's odd with the sacks counting against rushing yards in college football. Um, but yeah, I think that's Michigan's game plan. They want to run the ball. They want to stop you from running it, even without the sacks. Holding a team to 39 yards. They did, and then Fresno State was still in the game.
No.
So
I I think part of them stopping the run, that RPO game is going to be huge, and I think you'll see a punch counter punch where we actually probably have some of those RPOs and we hit Gunnar Helm on some of those seam routes, or kind of like what he did last week with that. I guess it was like a corner route that he did. I could
yeah,
see him having like 3 catches for 70 yards and just really like making a big difference.
go Gunner. All
Go
right.
Gunnar.
You want to have some fun? I think Brett, your wife had a prediction for the game.
Oh,
Marie's prediction for the game is Texas goes into halftime down 3 points and comes back to win by over a touchdown.
okay.
I'm pretty confident that. At first, she said Texas would be down full touchdown at halftime. She
Amazing.
moved off that to 3 points. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if that was that
Yeah,
actually.
I'll take it.
I see a world where Michigan starts this game a little angry. I think they feel disrespected that the line has changed. They didn't play how they wanted to last week. I think they're going to show up ready to play, but I think Texas is too much. And like I like what you said, close game at half, and we just take it over. So, but great stuff, guys. Good insight. Looking forward to the game, and we'll have a recap shortly after. So,
Hook 'em.
hook
Welcome.
'em. See ya.
Let's go, fellas.